Morning. Today I'm going to be talking to you about APA format updated for the 7th edition. My name is Carrie Ann Sparks, and I am the manager of the Tutoring and Writing Center in Georgetown and also the Virtual Tutoring Center. So first, let's talk about what is APA format. APA format is actually two different things. First, it is a way to organize your paper. When your teacher explains that you need to write a paper in APA format, you need to follow the specifics that are given to you by APA. It is also a method for citing your sources. So, when your teacher explains that you need to write your paper in APA format, you have to do both of these things. You have to organize your paper consistent with APA format guidelines, and you also have to cite your sources the way that APA tells you to cite your sources. It's used in nursing, business, English, and psychology. Here at Del Tech, we use it for almost all of our courses. It is an abbreviation for the American Psychological Association. I always like to say that I think they are doing a psychological experiment on us by changing up the rules every few years. Speaking of rules, APA are big fans of rules. They do not encourage creativity or going out of the box. They want you to do things the way they have specifically told you to do them. Here are a few of the APA rules. Font. You have to stick with one font and one size throughout the whole paper. A lot of students like to make a bigger font on their title page. You cannot do that in APA format. So here are some of the acceptable fonts. Times New Roman 12 and Calibri 11 are two of the most popular. You need to pick one font, one size, use it all throughout the paper. Everything in your paper should be double-spaced, so just start out with the document in double-spaced format and you will be good to go. All paragraphs should be indented. Sometimes students act like tabs cost them money. I promise you, tabs are free. Hit that tab button to indent your paragraph. It helps your reader know when you're starting a new topic. There should be a page number in the upper right-hand side on the header of each page. In the past, APA required running heads. They no longer do that for student papers, so do not worry about a running head. The only thing you need to put in the top part of your paper is a page number. All papers, in order to be in APA format, must have a title page and a references page. Here are some examples of formatted pages. This is our APA handout that we give to students in the Writing Center. So our title page example, you're going to see our page number here up at the top, full title of paper, it should be centered, bold, and important words should be capitalized. Then there's going to be a blank space here, and then the rest of the information including name, college, course number, instructor name, and due date. When writing out the due date, if it is the 2nd or the 5th, for example, do not put ND or TH after the number. Even though we say that, we do not write that. Here we have a body page example. Again, page number. Again, we're going to put the full title of the paper. For the first page, as you start your paper, rather than put introduction or anything else up here, you are going to, in bold, centered, capitalizing the important words, put the title of your paper. Then you're going to have some sort of introductory paragraph that explains the topic of the paper to the reader. Always assume when you are writing a paper that your reader does not know anything about your subject. Then the last page of your paper is your references page. Again, we have the page number. Centered in bold here is going to be the word references, and then we are going to have an alphabetical list of references. They are going to be double-spaced and follow all the other requirements that APA requires, which we will talk about later. Here is another example of a title page formatted in, obviously, PowerPoint, just to show you the page number, the title, centered, bold, capitalizing important words, extra space here, and then the rest of the information. Here is an example of a body page. So again, you'll notice page number, title, introductory paragraph, and then here we have a major heading. As you go through your paper, you should include major headings that tell your reader what each section of your paper is about. The last major heading, for example, would be a conclusion, and it would be centered in bold. but the major headings in between are going to give your reader an idea of what each section of your paper is about. Here is an example of the references page. References here is centered in bold. You'll see I've got my references in alphabetical order by the first word of the entry. What you'll also notice is that many times the references is going to start with an author, because that is the format, but it may also start with an organization. Authors in APA are not always people. If the Centers for Disease Control publishes something, like for example this Facts About Hypertension, we are going to say that the Centers for Disease Control are the author, because as you can see, no other author is listed. Unlike a person as an author, where for a person you list their last name, comma, first name, or first initial, period. If they have a middle initial, you list that too. When you're typing out the organization or group, you just put the name of the organization or group. You don't try to change the order or anything. You're going to notice that you also include the date, the title of the reference, and then typically there is some sort of link, unless it's something like a book or a journal article that is not online. So, how do we reference our sources in APA? There are two ways that we have to do it. The second way is what we just talked about on the references page, but the first way is an in-text citation. And it's kind of like a thing, if you think about tagging, like if you tag someone on Instagram or Facebook, it's a way to show that here, I got this information and I'm tagging it to show you the connection on the references list. You cannot have one without the other. If you have a source on your reference list, then you have to have used it somewhere in text. The other part is true as well. If you have an in-text citation, you need to use that on your references list. So the typical format for an in-text citation is parenthesis, last name of the author, comma, year of publication, end parenthesis, period. So here's an example of a sentence we might use when we are using information from a source in our paper, and then here is the in-text citation, last name of the author, comma, year of publication, end parenthesis, period. So when do we do this? When do we use in-text citations? Students typically recall that in-text citations are required if you are using a direct quote. If you take someone else's words and put it in your paper, you definitely need to put in an in-text citation. This is called a direct quote. You're going to show it by using quotation marks. You'll notice that we don't just have here author and year, we also have a page number, because if you are using a direct quote, you need to include either a page number or a paragraph number to show where you got the information within the source. Page numbers are used for printed materials, paragraph numbers are used for online materials. When you take information from another source and put it in your own words, you still have to cite it. It is just not considered a direct quote, it is considered paraphrasing. So I'm citing the same information, saying children prefer Cheerios to Rice Krispies, and I'm providing my citation. Anytime you include information from a source in your paper, facts, opinion, statistics, you have to include a citation. If you do not, it is plagiarism. You can change it up for variety if you want by putting the author at the beginning of the sentence and then the rest of the citation at the end. As long as you have all the information, that is acceptable. Sometimes we get a little bit more complicated in terms of our authors and our dates. If there are two authors, you're going to list the authors in the order that they appear on the source, and you are going to put the and sign or ampersand in between the two authors' last names. If there are three or more authors, you are only going to list the first author, and then et al. Period, which is Latin for and others. If there's an organization as author, you are going to list that organization's name. So maybe the Mayo Clinic or Nike or the National Institute of Mental Health. write out the whole name of the organization within the in-text citation. If there is no author, which is very rare, typically there is an author, but if there is no author, you're going to write the first 2 to 3 words of the title in quotation marks, capitalizing the important words. If there is no date, which does happen especially for online sources, you're going to put N period, D period in place of the date. Why do we have to do this? Why do we feel we must be tortured by APA? The first and most important reason is to avoid plagiarism. As I said earlier, if you include information in your paper that you got from another source, you have to cite it. If you do not cite it, it is plagiarism. You also want to give your reader information about your source. Where did you get this information? Is it from a news source? Is it from a scientific source? Is it from a commercial source, a website? For example, if you tell me that people who wear glasses are more attractive than people who do not, and your source was LensCrafters, then I'm going to wonder about how reliable that source is. This leads us to the other reason we want to do this is we want to use in-text citations to help strengthen our argument. A research paper is really an argument. You are saying this is good because, or this is bad because, or this should change because. In order to have a strong argument, you need to have good support and good evidence, and that's where your sources come in. I'm not going to go over this during this video, but I will put the link in the comments. If you are looking at a source, you want to use the CRAP test, which helps you determine if a source is a good one to use. Some of the things that the CRAP test asks you to look at are when a source was published. Something from 25 years ago, that's a science source, is probably not very reliable. They want you to look at the relevance. Is it something that is applicable to what you're talking about? They want you to look at who's the author and whether or not they are an expert or credible. They want you to look at the purpose of the source. Why is it being published? Okay, so now that we have finished with in-text citations, we are looking at reference entries. The typical format for a reference entry is the last name of the author, the first initial, period, middle initial if there is one, period, the date, in parentheses, then period, the title of work. When you're adding the title, you're going to capitalize it as you would a sentence. So here's an example, the truth about Chia. You'll see we've only capitalized the first word. Then a source, volume if there is one, issue if there is one, page number if there is one, and then a link. And it depends on the type of source. So for example, here's a web page in the reference entry. Here's a journal article in the reference entry. In the APA handout and on the APA website, they have examples for every type of source you can imagine, from YouTube to podcasts to magazines to government publications to laws. So no one expects you to memorize how to do these. What we expect is that you take the information we give you and you look up your specific example to see how to do it. The writing process. As you're gathering your research materials, make sure to keep track of your references. Either print out physical copies or email the full text to yourself. You don't want to have information that you've cited but not actually have the source and then not be able to use it. So make sure as you're going through and you're collecting sources that you create an online folder or a physical folder where you put all of your references. Don't just try to operate with 35 tabs open on your browser, because when your browser unexpectedly closes, you're going to lose all that information. As you're writing your paper, start with an outline. This may seem like an extra step, but it really helps with organization and makes it easier along the way. One of the reasons to do an outline is that so you are sure you are including all of the information you need. You can create your outline by looking at your assignment guidelines and then putting down each part that you need to include. Then as you fill in the information as you go along, you will see if you're missing anything. Make sure when you're putting information in your outline that you cite as you go. What I mean by that is if you include a fact in your outline, make sure you include the in-text citation right there. We have had students who have come in and said, oh, I've written my whole paper, I just need to add the citations. That is a real problem because they don't remember where they got their information. So either they're going to plagiarize because they're not going to cite it correctly, or they have to take the information out. Give yourself plenty of time when you're writing a paper. You want time to research, and the research librarians at Del Tech can help you. They are available in person and online to help you find good resources. You also need to plan time to write out your outline and plan your paper. You need time to write the paper and then revise the paper. Writing an academic paper is not something you can do in one sitting or one day. And if you try to do that, your instructor will know. So do this, plan it out, give yourself plenty of time, and then you can have someone at the Writing Center look at your paper before it's due to make sure that you've fulfilled all the requirements and you are using citations correctly. I have included a bunch of resources, The APA website is an amazing resource that gives you a lot of examples for references, for in-text citations. So here, for example, is a journal article, and they give you the reference entry and then the in-text citation. There's also Purdue OWL, which stands for Online Writing Lab, as well as our Del Tech resources. If you want to access Writing Center support, you can go onto the Del Tech website, and actually I'll show you from my DTCC. So if we start at my DTCC, and then you go to Resources, here's Student Success Toolbox, scroll down, Virtual Support Center, and this gives you information on the hours. So we are the Virtual Tutoring Center, as well as a link to access us. You can come here with no appointment during our available hours and get a Writing Center tutor to review your paper. I hope this video has been helpful. As I said, I'm going to insert a link into the comments so you can get access to the presentation and see all of the links I've provided. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me at ksparks@dtcc.edu. That's ksparks@dtcc.edu. Thank you and have a great day.